Well, hello, Calvary Baptist Church, and many more that are joining with us. It's Saturday, and as we have taken time all week to walk through the different days and what's taking place during Passion Week as Jesus is heading to the cross, we saw yesterday that Jesus was on the cross. We saw the trials that took place. We saw as he's walking to the cross and the beatings he took place and the sayings that he said from the cross and eventually his death. And we see that after he dies, these two men, Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus, seek to request Jesus' body and to bury him and put him in the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea. And so what we find, though, is it would have been a very quick burial, as they would have been trying to get Jesus' body off of the cross quickly before sundown and before the end of the day at sundown, but also because the very next day would have been the Sabbath. But what we find on the Sabbath is, or what we know as Saturday, is we see there's just one thing taking place. And so I'm reading here Matthew chapter 27, verse 62, and we read, it says, "The next day, that is, after the day of preparation, the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered before Pilate, and said, 'Sir, we remember how that impostor said, while he was still alive, after 3 days I will rise. Therefore order the tomb to be made secure until the third day, lest his disciples go and steal him away and tell the people, he has risen from the dead. And the last fraud will be worse than the first.' Pilate said to them, 'You have a guard of soldiers. Go make it as secure as you can.' So they went and made the tomb secure by sealing the stone and setting a guard." And so we see one of the things that's interesting is here the Pharisees and the chief priests, they remember what Jesus said. When Jesus said that he was going to rise after 3 days, and so here they are, they're a bit anxious because they knew that the next day is the third day and thought, we've got to make sure this thing is secure, because what happens if maybe they take Jesus' body and try to say he's risen? And so they ask Pilate and they make it secure. They would have put this heavy stone with a seal of the Roman government upon it, meaning that if you were to touch it, that is the death sentence for you. And so they make this stone that's rolled over, and there's guards all around it. And what we see, even Pilate says to make it as securely as you can. Now, there's almost some foreboding language there, because what we find is they could make it as secure as they wanted. It could have been Fort Knox, but that would have not kept Jesus in the grave. Because what we find is tomorrow, on Resurrection Sunday, is Jesus is risen. Now, typically, during this Saturday, traditionally the church has made this considered a holy day. Oftentimes, people will use this of a time to simply spend in prayer, sometimes fasting and taking some time of solitude and silence to spend with the Lord. And in many ways, that has been done as a way of preparing the heart for the celebration that takes place on Resurrection Sunday. And so I want to encourage you and your family that during this Saturday, take time maybe to prepare your heart. As you join us online tomorrow on our Facebook page, I would encourage you, prepare your heart for tomorrow. Take time and spend in silence and solitude with the Lord and thank Him that Christ was in the grave, that His death takes our death so that we might be alive through His resurrection. And so take some time and reflect on that so that tomorrow you can celebrate that Christ is alive. Well, I hope this has been a good word for you. And I want to encourage you and your family to join us tomorrow online. You can do so from the comfort of your own home on Facebook at 11 a.m. or also on our YouTube channel as well. And so I want to encourage you there and enjoy this time to celebrate that Christ is indeed risen. Amen. You may go in peace.